I know you wind up working in the NBA Finals. Just take me through those first couple years. How would you kind of rate your performance in the league?
I really leaned on the veterans. So I had a lot of great mentors in Joey and Eddie T. Rush and Jack Madden and Steve Javy as a young crew chief, Danny Crawford as a young crew chief, and I just tried to bleed out of them everything they could give me, and I was pretty primary focused. Didn't stray much. Try to stay in my lane. I tried to get real good with the rules because I felt that I could always be an asset to the crew if I had real good rule knowledge with some of the veteran people who might not have had as good a rule knowledge. So that way I brought something to the game every night, something they could rely on as my play calling was improving.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the main things that really stand out that Joey was able to give you and other veterans that kind of guided you along?
Well, I can still remember being in his living room, and I was 27, 28 years old, and him pausing the tape in the living room on a drive to the basket and screaming at me, "Who do you got? Who are you refereeing? Who are you looking at?" And that still holds true to today. And it was quite amazing that, all the things that were learned inside his living room back in 1989, 90, we're teaching today. So it's maybe with some different verbiage, but it's still the same principles of, get the people early, see them longer, so the play is slower. And, I would say early in my career, we wore the pause button out on his VCR. I mean, I think we took the print off it because he would always be willing to watch tape with me. And the big thing was he was always really honest with me to the point where I would leave his living room wanting to punch him. And I realized that he was telling me the truth. And that would really made a difference in my career, I believe.
Mm. So you worked in the league 21 years. Give me some of the memories that kind of stand out the most to this day.
Well, I'm not a big storytelling guy, but I guess working the All-Star game, being a crew chief in the All-Star game in 2008 was big. Working my first final in 2008 with Bennett and Joey, two of my dear friends and both my, big true mentors of mine, Bennett Salvatore and Joey, and being able to work Lakers Boston Game 3 with them was, it was really not only emotional, but it was like when you get hired in the league, you're trying to get hired not to just be a referee in this league. You're trying to be one of the best referees in the league. And when I got to that point and was assigned that game, you realize you reached a goal. And that's one of the most memorable things for me as far as being able to accomplish that.
Unfortunately, the NBA just lost an icon, an absolute legend, a person that was really dear to our hearts in Kobe Bryant, someone that you got to officiate many times over the years, including those NBA Finals. I know you have a pretty funny story. Tell us about the time you teed up the Black Mamba.
What happened was it was my first final, and I could tell it was bigger than I thought because I couldn't get into the captain's circle at the beginning of the game. There was so many cameras and everything. So I thought, wow. So as the game started, I was a crew chief through the first 2-3 rounds. And then in the finals, I was the umpire because Joey, of course, or Bennett were a crew chief and referee. And as the game started, I could feel that every play that was debated was going to be debated with me. And from Paul Pierce to Kevin Garnett to Kobe, everybody was coming at me. And Joey and Bennett were making calls, and they were like, they would just come to me. So finally, about the 6-minute mark, I realized that I was going to have to spend 48 minutes of this pure torture. So Kobe went to the basket. He gets stripped pretty good. I got to it early. I saw the ball. I saw the hand on the ball. Saw it go down. Boston was on a fast break. Kobe starts screaming at me, and I said, just stay right here. Don't go nowhere. I'll be right back. But my emotions took over, and I turned, and I hit him with a technical foul before Boston could score. I should have waited for Boston to finish the play, but I was, wanting to get it off the list so much, So So the play ended, and now there was a timeout. And I'm looking down at Bennett and Joey, and I walked down to him, and Joey looked right at me. He says, "You're not as dumb as you look," because I kind of, from that point forward, I was able just to referee, and everything kind of calmed down. So it was kind of handed to me, a situation where I was able to address and alleviate some problems that were developing for me. But as all referees go, you think you arrived, and all of a sudden 5 minutes in the game you realize you haven't. So it's interesting for all of us. It was a good message for all of us.
Did Kobe respond to that? Did he leave you alone the rest of the game?
Yeah, he just played. He was just a terrific. He just played, and it was a memory I'll never forget. And like I said, being there with Joey and Bennett made it really special.
Mark, I get the sense, just like your friend Joey Crawford. Oh, by the way, hey, Joey, thanks a lot for our double podcast. Hope all is well. Sorry, I had to get that in there, Mark. But just like you and many others, you're a referee lifer, and now you're in a position to give back to the game at the highest level. Talk to me about your role as VP of referee operations in the NBA.
So basically, I help run with Monty, Joey, Bennett, EF Rush, and Bernie. We oversee the officials. So we have a lot to do with the mechanical structure, how the mechanics operate. We have groups that we oversee. I'm also involved in different other streams. I work closely with Monty as far as plays that are trending, mechanics that we can change to help improve our performance, because as we all know, in the last 10 years, the game has changed from threes, frees, and layups, right? So you have a lot of volume 3-point shot attempts. You have free throws, and then you have layups. And the mid-range game has kind of left us. So our mechanical structure kind of changed to more of a trail being more attached to the sideline, getting more width, and the lead, outside ball, trying to work outside in, and then the slide free throw line extended. So we work hard on starting everybody at dependable positions. We work hard on the mechanics, and then from the mechanics, we build habits, because what we do as a group for the development of referees is we believe that mechanics and habits can create like a consistency and a calibration that will allow fairness in a game. So that's our goal, is to create a calibration and a consistency on each end, which provokes fairness. Because when it comes to officiating, that's what it's all about.
I love that. That's a great line. Let's get a little technical for all the ref nerds out there. On the most recent podcast I did with Al Batista, we talked about order and sequencing to start a possession and categorizing different play types and kind of having those guidelines to follow, which then helps us be more prepared for those plays. So what else could you add on top of that?
So mechanically, we have a theme. We go in each night. We want to referee the 3-point line, and we want to own the paint with 6 eyes. Okay. So by owning the 3-point line is you have to be honest. I've heard you on your other podcasts. You have to see and read the next play on the perimeter. So you have to locate your shooters, because we want you, we like to see you do stationary sequencing. Okay. Stationary sequencing is you're not moving to a spot as the guy is taking a shot. You're already in a spot because you read the shooter, you step down, and you're there on a pass. So stationary sequencing would be you're in the trail, you have a shooter in your primary, you read the shooter, you step down to make sure you see the next pass coming, you're stationary, then you go through your sequencing. So one of the main sequencing we do with all 3-point shots is, since the beginning of time, screeners screen for shooters. Okay, so we have to always find our screening action first, and we have to find and make sure the guy's behind the 3-point line, and then we go to point of contact. So the screening action would be the sequencing action would be 1, 2, 3. You would go screen, line, defender, screen, line, defender. And it's imperative that you're stationary, because if you get there stationary, you're not, diving down. Like, you don't see NBA referees diving down on their shooters anymore. You see them in a stationary.
Diving down.
like being stacked behind them and then on the catch trying to get underneath to see if they're behind the 3-point line. We used to see a lot of that. Where they would try and dive down, to see if they're behind, and they'd be missing all the screening action in front of them. We try and do our work early now, okay, by identifying our shooters, by making pre-adjustments on the perimeter, as far as position adjustments. So we're there on the catch. We want to be there on the catch. And so we want to have stationary sequencing. So I can stand there on the catch, get to my screening action, get to the line, and get to the point of contact. It's a lot slower. So what happens is it allows you to see the play longer. Now, I'm a big guy, and I believe in this. It's okay to stand in the right spot. Everybody stand in the right spot. Everybody looking in the right spot. But you have to look at the plays in the right order. If you're out of order, you'll miss the play. So let's just go over 3-point shots with screen line defender. And we went to the 1, 2, 3 sequence, right? 1 is screening, 2 is line, 3 is point of contact. If you go line 1, screener 2, the screening action's already occurred. So you have to be in the right order. I know it sounds simplistic, but it's not. When I go to games, the only thing I do is watch referees' eyes. And I can tell you after a game if they're in the right order throughout the game. I can watch their eyes and see if they're watching plays in the right order. So when something happens and a play is missed, I can tell that they didn't see the play. Not that they saw the play, they didn't call it. They were in out of order, they missed the play, and they didn't call it. There's a big difference. And we have to get sequentially, sound as far as jump shots. We go screen line defender. Then when the jump shot is taken, we go to our second sequence. And we take the shooter up, we take the shooter down, and then we go to rebound. Up, down, rebound. Up, down, rebound. So let's take that sequence out of order. You go up, and then you go to rebound. And the guy lands on a guy's foot. You don't know what happens.
Yep.
So you have to take it 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So on one play, on a volume 3 shot, you have 2 stationary sequence actions. You have screen line defender, up, down, rebound on every possession, every time you officiate it. That's the way we're taught, because that provokes consistency, which will, improve our calibration and provoke fairness.
Those are great mental cues, kind of as a play starts. It's like a real proactive approach. It's almost we're seeing the game a couple seconds ahead. They say don't anticipate the foul, but anticipate the play. So that's kind of what you mean by that. Yes, and the key to it is to get to your spots, right? You start in a dependable spot, trail leader slot or it's center, right? Trail leader center. You start in a position, and then from that spot, you position adjust based on open and closed looks, right? You never allow players to dictate your angle. You never settle for the C look. You work hard for the A look, right? And a lot of that has to do, when you get into that mode of really working hard mechanically, your handoffs are quicker. Like when the lead accepts the ball from the trail, you work off each other's eyes. Okay, we have referees have an unwritten language. We don't talk to each other for 48 minutes or 40 minutes. What we do, we talk to each other through our eyes, and when it's done right, it's like poetry, right? It's beautiful. I mean, it's something that that fills my heart when I see it done right. And what happens is that unwritten language, that unspoken language, can be effective if everybody does it quickly and efficiently. So, if me and you are having a handoff from trail to lead, if I stay on the ball too long, right, because you're accepting ball, I want to get right off. As soon as I read your eyes on ball, I want to get off to my next primary because freedom of movement. I want to see the first foul. Maybe if I stay on the ball too long, I'll see the push off and not the hold. So I watch that a lot when I go to games too. I watch the ability of referees to give up the ball and work with a lot of teamwork and trust with each other. To be able to say, he has it, I'm off, I'm in my primary. And then that's all done by understanding where the lines are on the floor, right? Because most of our ball acceptance is based on lines on the floor in the NBA.
The free throw line down, the lead will accept. Outside lane line, the slot will accept. So you need to know the lines on the floor and when you need to accept ball. I think that all works hand in hand with the habits that we talked about with the sequencing and the mechanics that we need to know.
I know that last week when we spoke on the phone, you were mentioning a lot of great points about primary and secondary court coverage. Could you talk about that again?
Yes. We liked our officials to remain primary focused with secondary awareness. Okay. Now, secondary awareness means this: if you're going to go out of your primary, you have to throw a strike. All right, because we did analysis, and our most effective secondary area caller is still last to our primary caller. Okay, so that's a pretty accurate stat. So our most efficient secondary caller is our worst primary caller. Mm-hmm. So we want you to stay primary focused. And when you go out, we want you to throw a strike. Okay. Now, that's for a few reasons. Okay. Because when I came in, with Billy Oakes and Joey and Bennett and Bobby Delaney and all those people I work with, Steve, they allowed me to referee. All right. They allowed me to grow. Okay. So when there was plays to the basket, there wasn't a lot of unnecessary double whistles and triple whistles that they would allow me an opportunity to blow the whistle. And if I didn't get it, they would have a quick cadence count behind me to get it. But when you do that and you allow your partners, especially your younger partners, to have the ability to call plays, it grows them faster, not with just their confidence, but with the participants that are playing, the coaches, the players, the GMs, right? Because they see the strong fist by a Jenna Schroeder. She comes, she breaks the pile with strong signals, reports it to the table with a lot of confidence. And just, without a double whistle, just a single solid whistle where Scott Foster's looking at the same play and he knows it's a foul in the trail and he's allowing Jen to call it to provide her the uppercuts, her primary cadence. And if she can't get it, he goes to get it. That's what I love most about our staff is their ability to allow our young people to grow. And I think, it's overlooked because it's been passed down. Myself, Joey, like I said, Joey Bennett, all those guys did it for me, Monty, Scott Foster. That's how they grew us, and Duke Callahan. That's how we grew. They allowed us to referee, and we were all able to make the NBA Finals. And I just think it's important as a senior, when you're working as a team, you realize the importance of not only allowing people to grow, but allowing people to referee, especially with inside their primary.
Got a question for you about primary versus secondary. This is in slot or trail. So we're refereeing that primary defender all the way to the rim, right?
Yes. Whoever you in our system, whoever you start with, you take to the basket. So if the trail starts with defender A and he gets beat, and now defender A is trailing and he's engaged, we stay with him because he may push him, he may trip him, he may hit him in the back of the head. So we want to stay engaged with that defender if we start with that defender.
Okay, so my question is, how do we avoid that double whistle if let's say the trail is refereeing that primary defender, but now it enters the lead's primary, like right in front of them or right in the paint? Is the lead supposed to be aware that this is the trail's play still?
Well, if here's what happens on plays to the basket. There's a difference. If the defender gets beat, right, the trail will stay engaged with backside defender. And what happens when people get beat? Secondary defenders come, right? All right. So secondary defenders, with inside your primary, you have to make decisions. Okay. So let's do this. I'm going to make a basic one. You're in the slot or in the center. There's post play and you have the ball in your primary. You have to make a decision with inside your primary. Do you go to the ball and allow the post play to go unwatched? Or if there's no pressure on the ball, do you go down to the post until the lead gets over and then go on ball? And we face those decisions every night, right? And it's the same thing in the lead. When that defender gets beat, Now we have to figure out where the help's coming from. Well, in the NBA, most of the help comes from the weak side. 90% of the help comes from the weak side. And usually the help is the tell for the lead is first movement. Whoever moves first is coming. Okay, he's going to be the secondary defender because everybody else is going to remain attached. Because we have in the NBA and in college and in high school, you want to stay with your shooters. So they have one person rotating, to take the, there's three ways to guard the rim, right? Block shots, take charges, or you play through legal contact. As referees, we got to be good at all three. We have to be good at block shots. We have to be good at block charge, and we have to be good at them playing through verticality. Okay, so by doing that, we have to get the people early so we see them longer, so the play is slower, so we can discern the play. We're not whistleblowers. We're discerners. We discern plays. We just don't blow the whistle on contact. We discern contact. There's a lot of plays that are ugly but not illegal. Okay, so we have to get the people early and just referee the legality of the defender and not the force of the offensive player. So what happens a lot is in the lead, you now get the secondary defender because strong side defender, most strong side defenders are going to stay attached, right? Because that short corner pass is an easy three. So you don't really have to worry about them. You have to worry about the first movement. And usually that secondary defender is coming from weak side. When you get to him, you're on him. That's your defender. The backside defender is the trail. So whoever commits the foul will take the play. The lead can't see the backside defender. He's close to him, right? And the trail with an engaged matchup can't get to the secondary help defender. So that's why we referee people in the paint instead of the ball.
Understood. Yeah, I was thinking this is kind of
I'll just add. Now, say that defender stays attached and he stays in front, right? Well, there's going to be no help defender. That's when the lead picks that defender up too, because there's nobody coming to help because he's been able to stay in front. So now we have four eyes on that defender, and the trail will allow lead first shot with a secondary cadence. It's only when players are beat that we have secondary help. You very rarely have secondary help when primary defender stays engaged and attached.
But if it's a more obvious foul from the backside, from the primary defender, but kind of the lead still has a good look at it, who do you want having a whistle there?
If he sees a foul, I would like to have a primary cadence from the trail with a secondary cadence from the lead. But if that's a play it's obvious, we have no problem with a double whistle on that kind of play.
Okay.
What we hate are the kind of double whistles where there's an obvious train wreck at the basket, one primary defender that the lead has, and here comes the trail on the slide all with a triple whistle, and they're all looking at each other like who's going to take it to the table. And kind of fighting over the play. We do not want that. We want to allow people with inside their primary to referee the play.
Good stuff. You've said a lot of impactful things. One thing that stood out to me off air was you said, be a participant. Be a participant for the game. Could you just go into a little bit more detail on what that means?
Yeah. Well, when we hire you, we want you to participate. Okay. We don't want people going 6 for 6, 7 for 7. We would rather have people, being active with inside their primary, maybe going 12 for 13, right? And right, because basically people that go 6 for 6 and 7 for 7, I refereed in the CBA for 3 years. I could get all 7 of those plays in the CBA. Okay, I need you to get the 5 or 6 I can't get. All right, so when you come on board, you have to participate and you have to add to the crew every night. And that's the kind of people we like to hire. We like to hire willing people that are willing and willing to participate and have grit and resolve and all the intangibles that Monty talks about all the time as far as the real thing, courage, what really makes officials, that discipline. And that's what we're looking for every night. Now hey, listen. When you first come in, there's a lot going on. I mean, it's hard, but we ask a lot of you. A lot's asked from those that are hired, and that's just the way it has to be. When I just want to get back to drives to the basket, okay? Because this is important. when you're refereeing a play to the basket, and I've said it twice, getting to people early is important because of the three ways they protect the rim. You have to get to the RA, right, the restricted area, right? You have to make sure they're vertical, right? And you have to get to the point of contact a lot. And there's a lot of plays at the basket that we have a threshold, and you talk about a lot in your podcasts that I've listened to as far as that pain tolerance that you need on drives to the basket, right? And that pain tolerance is important because at the end of the day, when you really break it down, what separates a lot of officials is the ability to withstand that pain tolerance, to just judge the legality of the play and not the ugliness of it. And if I could just leave your viewers or your listeners with that thought, that just judge the defender's legality, not the fact that the guy blew up or fell down or whatever he did. Just judge the defender's legality. And if you do that by getting to him early, knowing who's helping, knowing where the help's coming from, seeing the play longer, keeping the air low in your belly, and then making a decision, discerning the play, and not be a whistleblower, you'll have a lot more success moving forward.
Funny, so much about this craft is like not being reactionary, not rushing, because just that's where all the mistakes lie.
Well, most of our mistakes we have two kind of errors when we blow the whistle. We have closed look errors, where people call plays where they have totally closed looks, right? Or we have poor early decisions. And that's the one you're talking about, Paul, where you make that poor early decision, and you just too reactive, too quick, right? You didn't discern. You're a whistleblower. You didn't discern the play. You just reacted. And we find when we miss plays that those poor early decisions are the ones that lead to most of our incorrect calls. And I just to backtrack, I just want to add one thing. Don't ever think that proximity and primary mean the same thing. Okay?
I'll talk about it.
So if there's a drive to the basket and the trail is the farthest person away from that backside defender, right? And he pushes him in the back, and he's the only one open to that because he started with that defender. He has to call that play because proximity and primary, coaches and players think that goes together. But us referees know it doesn't, right? And we know that looks are created from all, because of the three-man system and the triangle method it was built. What's closed to two should always be open to one, right? So we have to make sure that we don't think that primary and proximity are aligned.
So basically, if you blow the whistle when you have a closed look, you're pretty much guessing. How do we avoid guessing and really establishing that ultimate sense of certainty?
Well, that's why you have to make sure you work for that A look. You have to make sure you're mechanically sound. You have to make sure that you have the discipline, which is the word that we use most, is having the discipline and trust in your teammates. What's closed to you will be open to them. If you believe that to be true, then you'll withstand that pain tolerance of calling plays with closed looks. All right. And most ways, one of the best ways you can do it when you watch tape, for your listeners, is every time you blow the whistle, hit the pause button and see if you had an open look. So every time you're doing your film, like my pause button on my Infinity remote's worn out like Joey's was in his living room in 1987. But you just wear out that pause button. So every time your partners or you blow the whistle, pause it. Say, could he see that play? Boom. Could he see that play? Boom. Could he see that play? And you just do that. And when you do that, you'll see what plays you're calling that you're seeing and what plays you're calling that you're guessing. Because when you guess, I think the laws are average. This seems like we're always wrong. We're never right. I mean, at least I wasn't in my career. And I just really believed early in my career, and I was taught early in my career, the importance of teamwork and trust.
That's great that you said that, because a lot of times, we're told to watch film and study our film. What we're not told is exactly how to do that. So I'm glad you mentioned that pausing of the game and really, looking to see if we have an open look. That's good. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things you can do on tape, like make sure you're you're getting to stationary sequencing positions. Make sure you're creating open looks by basic habits of moving opposite players. If players moving to the right, you move to the left, right? You don't, right? These are basic things when you're watching film. Are you creating good angles by having good habits, by creating open looks, by dictating your own angles? Or are you settling for the C look? Are you settling for standing behind it and being stacked on a jump shot? Are you okay with that? So I think there's a lot to be learned by tape. I think there's 3 ways to learn. You hear it on this podcast, right?
Yep.
You see it when you watch your tape,
Yep.
and then you go out and you do it. So it's hear, see, do, right?
Mm.
And there are 3 things you have to do. You listen to this podcast, you try and apply some things, you watch your film, and then you try and adjust things that you want to do better.
That's great stuff. Anything else you want to say about tips for watching film? Be better game reviewers?
No, just be honest. You have to, especially find somebody, a mentor you can rely on. Somebody that you can talk to. That bridge will handle any load. Where you can be totally honest and talk about things that they need to do improve or you need to do improve. Because if you're, and I've been in those locker rooms where early in my before I got into the NBA, where you walk in and the game was a disaster and everybody's going, wow, we really weren't good tonight. We were really good tonight, and everybody's patting each other on the back, and it was a total train wreck out there. So I think we have to, we as referees have to be honest with each other. And it's hard, man. That stuff's hard. But you know what? You're not going to grow unless people are honest with you, and it's important to be honest with each other.
So funny, like when I come home from a game or somebody asks me how my game went, I'm always like, yeah, it went well, pending film review, because what we see and feel that night on the court, a lot of times it just looks a lot different when you're watching it on your couch.
It sure does. But you know what? Tape takes all the emotion out, right, Paul? I mean, all the emotion that you felt on the floor, the emotion that you felt on the floor is no longer in the tape, right?
True.
It's just the tape. And that's, that's where the rubber hits the road, right? So it's like all the emotion that you felt out there and all that anxiety that you were going through out there for that, 40 minutes or that 36 minutes, whatever, 32 minutes, how long you refereed, that's out when you put the film in. That's out. All the emotions out. That's when you can be honest with yourself. Where you don't want to be judgmental is on the floor with your partners. You don't want to be judging your partner plays on the floor. You judge partner plays in the locker room or in the tape session back at your house later. All right. Where we get in trouble as officials is, like you were talking about secondary area calls. You have a play to the basket, and you get your eyes get to the defender early. You see the play long. You see him jump. He's vertical. There's a lot of contact. You have the pain tolerance to withstand that moment. You've done everything right. And now here comes the whistle from the trail, because his judgment is a little bit better than yours. All right. That's what I'm talking about. That's the stuff, to me, when I go to games, frustrates me. And and frustrates our staff, because we have to have the ability. He has saw that defender so much longer than the trail, right? And you just have to have the ability to trust each other. And then on film, you watch the play, you go in the locker room, you watch the play, and the guy goes C C C C C. He runs to the back, C C C. No, I don't see. C C C. No, I don't see. Well, if he has to run it back 3 or 4 times, he's wrong.
Yep. Anytime on any play, travels, any fouls that you have to continuously bring back and slow down, you're trying to look for ways that you got it right.
I totally agree. I just want to add one more thing to drives to the basket, if we could, for your listeners. When you start with that defender, okay, and this is something we're working really hard on in the NBA right now. When you start with your defender, and that defender beats that primary offensive player, beats that defender, and that defender is no longer engaged. He's kind of beat him. He's no longer engaged, and here comes the secondary help that the lead is on, right? Yep. Try and train your eyes to go from defender to defender. and not stop in the middle with the offensive player. So we call it lifting our eyes. So if you had started with that defender, he gets beat, right? Don't watch the guy dribble twice and then go to the next defender. Lift your eyes over top of that offensive player and go defender to defender. Train your eyes to do that. And you'll see how much quicker you get to that defender. And you can have a secondary cadence if the lead misses the play by getting to him earlier, right? So when you watch your film, you can train your eyes, we're back to the film work, by doing that. Somebody beats somebody, train your eyes, go defender, defender on film, defender, defender on film, and don't stop in the middle. And then go back and go defender, offensive player, defender, and see how much slower you are to that defender. So we call it lifting our eyes. And it's something that it's really hard, but it's really effective if you can do it right. Probably the person that does it best on our staff currently is Scott Foster. I watch his eyes. He never stops at go. He goes defender to defender, and he's there early. He has really quick, lightning fast eyes, and that what makes him an effective and efficient play caller.
You know, Mark, 30 years from now, we're going to be reffing with contacts in our eyes, and film reviewers are going to be able to track where your eyes are going as a way to break down, you know, your performance. Just to give you a little heads up.
It's kind of wrecked the game for me. I can't watch the game anymore. Like, I went to this Providence Nova game, and I went to this high school varsity game. I can't even watch the game. My wife asked me who won. I didn't even know Villanova won. I mean, it was just like, I'm so locked into the three people that are working and where they're looking. And, you know, and I'm just not being critical, but in my own mind, I'm saying to myself, you know, these are things, you know, just why, as a referee now, I think it's wrecked the game for us because we can't watch the players. We can only watch. And you know what? You try and pick up something. You try and gain something. You try and learn something, because one thing about everybody in our management team, we'll steal anything we can to make us better. We have no pride. We will take anything we can off of anybody that will make us better. All right. And just because our whole goal is to make the staff better. And with that said, we can't have any self-serving ideas. Everything has to be about improving that staff. And that's why I love what you're doing here. You're selfless in this regard in this podcast, because your whole goal is improving the refereeing and officiating in basketball. And I have to admire you for that, buddy. I mean, that's some good stuff.
I appreciate that. Well, I've been real driven, you know, personally to try to achieve my goals, and I kind of picked up the idea to try to bring as many people with me as possible. So that's kind of how it's manifesting right now, through social media and through podcasts and just through the collaboration and sharing of ideas and just putting it out there, because we all have our phones on us now and we all have the internet. So we got to take advantage of the opportunity of all this information that's constantly being transferred. That's what we're trying to do here.
If I could go over one more sequencing thought. Okay, so traveling has become a big part of our game, right? Because what happens is we miss travels on the perimeter that lead to fouls at the basket, right? That's the unintended consequence, right? Yeah. We miss a travel that beats the defender, and then we put a foul on their best player at the basket. So when we started sequencing, when I came in the league, we always watched the defender. Well, 4 years ago, we changed that. On every catch in the front court, we train our referees to go feet, pivot, and when the offensive player releases the ball, we go to defender. So it's feet, pivot, release. Feet, pivot, release. Because the reason that is, there's no longer any hand checking. The defender can't put his hands on him anyway. There's very rarely a foul prior to dribble. How many fouls have you called prior to dribble last year?
Try to use my voice. Yeah,
not many, right?
Sure.
So, but how many travels have we missed prior to dribble? Right? Because we've been out of order. So that's one thing we're really working hard on as staff, is we changed our sequencing to go feet, find the pivot, identify the pivot, and on release, sequence our eyes to defender. So it's feet, pivot, defender. Feet, pivot, defender. And as you can tell, it kind of has like a 3-step cadence to everything. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And I know it sounds boring, but if you can do this on every possession, where you can lock your disciplines in, like I'll tell you the story. My first time I went and did the sequencing at camp, I was doing it I was snapping my fingers. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And I was in front of the room. And I went to lunch that day, and I walked in this Mexican restaurant. There was 8 NBA referees at a table. And I walked by them. I heard them going, snapping their fingers as I walked by. And I started laughing. And I realized that I won the teaching moment. You know what I mean? I won my teaching moment, because whatever I said up there, that stuck. And I think that if you can apply these disciplines and get to the stationary sequencing areas and do it on every possession of every quarter of every game of every season, you'll be a much more effective play caller.
These 3-step cues are great. Do you have any other kind of play types where we can apply a 3-step cue? Anything that we left out?
We basically our mechanics are based on, systematic as far as player responsibility on plays in the basket. The perimeter stuff is all basically mechanically based as far as position adjusted early. But no, right now we have 3 cadences. Through those 3 cadences we use throughout the game. If you watch an NBA referee, you'll see his head go up. You'll see his head go down. Now, the important thing with that on a jump shot is our 2 partners now have to realize that referee is taking that player to the floor, right? So they have to get big and see the rebounding until that your partner can get there to get to his responsibility. So if the lead is on a jump shot in the corner, up, down, then go to rebound, our trail and our center have to be on rebounding coverage early to assist our lead, who is doing his job by taking the play to the floor. And then they have to do their job with teamwork and trust to get to our rebounding matchups until he can get there. It all goes back to the same theme, and that is teamwork and trust, right? Just doing it together, doing it collectively, because that's how you're judged. This is not a competition out there when 3 people work. It's basically 3 people trying to get as many plays right as you can, right?
Collectively. Let's touch on communication for a minute. It's the aspect of the game which I believe is the most challenging one for a lot of officials, especially the younger or less experienced ones. It can get real difficult. What's kind of your philosophy on the best way to respond?
Okay, so I really believe that when you talk to coaches, you have to use rules for your explanations. You have to articulate your answers. So, you have a play where a guy gets knocked to the floor and you go to the coach, and coach, what happened? He said, well, he got knocked to the floor. Okay, well, what's that mean? Well, no, the better answer would be he stepped into his path. He didn't allow him a chance to stop and change direction. His contact was illegal and it knocked him to the floor. Well, let's drive to the basket. What happened there? He hit him. No, he jumped. He went A to B into space and made illegal contact. When you articulate what you see, it's pretty hard for a coach to deflect or come back with a response. It's where we don't do a good job articulating in front of coaches by rule of what we saw. And I think that's the most effective way. And also the big thing is be authentic. Okay. Be real. Okay. Don't put on this used cars man's face over there and like you're trying to sell somebody a car. Okay. Be authentic, be yourself, and be honest. Okay. And I think that's the most effective way to gain the respect of not only the coaches, but the players and all the participants.
I like that when you were talking about giving them explanations, you say be rule-based, but right after that you said articulate. And that's where the science meets the art. By you saying be rule-based, we don't want to sound robotic. We don't want to sound like we're giving them definitions, like we're like a bookworm that can't, articulate their words. So you got to find that blend. And you said being authentic, that's just a great approach.
Yeah, I mean, being authentic is the real key, right? right? And that's and not only authentic with participants, but authentic with your partners later, authentic with your supervisors. Just, I mean, being honest. And I think that's what we sometimes referees were trying to, I don't know, put on his face. I think we should just be who we are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I put on that face for a long time until I got comfortable enough to just kind of really be myself out there. And it definitely makes a difference.
And that's when you hit a different gear.
Yeah.
That's when you became different and you became more free, right? Mm-hmm. You became more proud of yourself, right? And I think that has a lot to do with that. I mean, I deal with a lot of referees from, we go to, during all the grassroots camps and, the elite camps and the process of getting to the NBA. And I meet a lot of young, aspiring people. And the first thing I look at is, are they authentic? I mean, are they, and that's important to me, because you're looking at a kid that grew up in outside Philadelphia that was discovered on a blacktop in the middle of June, okay, and asked to go to an NBA tryout camp. I know where I came from, all right? Yeah. I know who I am, okay? I was granted an opportunity, okay? And I'm not going to say that, I went to the 8 college camps and I was the best college referee there. That's not the case. I mean, I was found out by a guy that saw me out of his kitchen window eating dinner. All right. So and that's who I am. And I don't hide from that. But I've been able to, I've always loved this profession. I think it's something that people don't realize the amount of work and effort it takes to be a good referee. I mean, the amount of tape you have to watch, the games you have to work. I mean, I can just remember working 6 rec league games a week, right? Yep. 6 rec, going out every night, just working.
So you had 2 people early in your career kind of pull you through, really give you an opportunity. Have you had an opportunity to return that favor to a younger official?
I have. I saw some people work that I won't mention names, but I forward names. I'm kind of a junkie. I go to a lot of high school games and just go to arena, and I'll get names and I'll forward them on to our scouting department. And they, to Big Al, the Batista, the Rain Man. He's
the Rain.
You give him a name and he's already got the name and he can tell you, the guy's shoe size by the time you're done talking to him. But I'm hoping to catch him eventually on a name he doesn't have. But hey, listen, you get up every morning and you love officiating. You go to work. You have a game at night. You're excited about working. I think when you go there, just go there with mindset that somebody might be there watching you, and work as hard, like you said in the beginning of the podcast, work as hard as you can, and you will be identified. If you have talent, you will be identified. We will not miss you, because guys like Al, Diana, Paul, and JB, and they're looking under every rock to find the best referees. And I can guarantee you that they will find you.
I really appreciate having you on, Mark. I'm happy to give you this platform because I know such a great teacher that you are. Your name has been name dropped on this podcast by a lot of other referees, always, in the sense that they were looking up to you and they've learned a lot from you. So I just, thanks a lot for taking the time out of your day for this.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man. It's if somebody can be home today and get some incrementally better, but we just talked about for an hour, and we both want our teaching moment, right?